folks, maybe you weren't expecting this, but listen, he's a good guy. He's a good friend of mine. We came from probably opposite ends of the political spectrum at one point. Maybe we're meeting in the middle somewhere. Let's bring in the host of the Chris Cuomo Project on podcast and the host of Cuomo on News Nation Nightly at 8 o'clock. Now, Chris, really good to have you, my friend. Thank you for doing this. Where do we jump in? Can we just jump in because the hottest topic right now, anywhere you go, Epstein this, Epstein that. Now, I know President Trump wants to move on from Epstein. Half of MAGA wants to move on from Epstein. One of my dear friends, Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk, who work here, they're ready to move on. The other half, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, want to know what's going on, want answers. Where are you on this, and what are your thoughts on Epstein and specifically how it's being played out in the media?
First, I'm a big fan of you, Eric Bolling. Come to you right from the kitchen table. Literally kitchen table. Why? Because no barriers to entry for you. You're a fair broker and you're a friend, and I'm happy to be on your show, and I'm happy for your success. The Epstein thing is tricky. Let's deal with the easy part first, okay? The left should shut the F up about it because they weren't into it when they had the ability to do something. They're only trafficking in it because it's bad for Trump, and that's not the basis that we need to get to a better place. Here's the problem with Epstein for the president, okay? He's right to be flummoxed by this, to not get it, because he wasn't really the one selling it. Did he sell it a little bit? Yeah. But he surrounded himself with people who cashed in on this. And the people who you mentioned who are still into it are only into it for one reason. They have this illusion of high moral ground because of kids being involved. But they're just doing this to drum up outrage. They're now just doing it at the president's expense instead of for his benefit. But remember, an opportunist, it's like the expression, a shooter's going to shoot. They shoot their shot. It doesn't matter who it's good for because they're just thinking about their bottom line. Here's the problem with this conspiracy versus others. High moral ground. And it's not about Trump. I don't believe there's anything in the files that show that he's a kitty toucher or a pedophile or any other disgusting stuff that Epstein was absolutely about. I don't believe there's a client list. I don't believe that there's a connection to Eric Bolling or Chris Cuomo or Bill Clinton or anything. And if there were, Epstein would have spilled the beans to save his own hiney. And if you believe he was murdered and that's why he didn't spill the beans, I don't agree with you. And your theory has a problem because Ghislaine Maxwell is still alive. So if they were killing people who had something to say, she'd be dead. Oh, no, she's going to spill her guts now. No, she isn't. It's a ruse, what's going on, because people around the president made false promises about what Epstein was about. And now he's having to pay the price for that allegiance to these people. But I think they should release whatever they have. I think they should fight in court to have things unsealed. I think there is a risk that the government will get sued by people who will say that you are trafficking in things that you knew would hurt them and without legitimate basis. I think there is a risk of that, but that's what the president exposed himself to. But I also agree, Eric, with the basic assumption that, Charlie Kirk wants to move on because he's all MAGA. And this is bad for MAGA because it's creating a divide. I don't have that lens. I don't give a hoot if it's good for MAGA or not. I don't think it's good for us. This does not get the majority to a better place. It does not advance the interests of the majority.
I call myself an original MAGA. I think Steve Bannon is the MAGA true north, and he says move on as well. So you're saying it's a MAGA that wants to, yet there's factions of MAGA that say we need, part of the reason we're behind this whole Trump movement, America First, is because they put a stop to the pedophilia, a stop to harming children, some of the things that they've accused Democrats of doing. So I don't know it's fair to say Charlie and Steve want to move on because they're MAGA. I'm MAGA. I want to know more. I want to know more not because I think it's going to hurt Trump. I want to know more because I think there's a lot of people who should be in jail and maybe not just Ghislaine Maxwell.
I think that that's a noble interest. I just think that it's been a false premise. I don't believe the DOJ lets powerful people go. I don't believe that. And I think our lived experience is certainly in recent years has shown the opposite. Lawfare is on the rise. I think conspiracies work very well off a nugget of truth and the power of the unknown. And this is no different. Yeah, sure, of course. If people were involved with pedophilia, I want to know. I just believe it's a false premise. So if you have it, great, put it out. Let's see it, prosecute them, great. The reason I'm saying that Bannon and Kirk want to move on is that this was good for them when it was playing to paranoia, playing to group grievance. Now it isn't, because they're having to pay the price for it, so they want to move on. The problem is they created a demand, and the demand isn't going away. I just would say the people who want Epstein revelations most are also anti-vax, COVID conspiracy, measles vax creates autism, deep staters. I think there's a conflation of interests that, to me, is relevant also.
Okay. Dershowitz was on the show last week and created quite a stir when I asked him this. Roll the soundbite, team. Should Ghislaine Maxwell be behind bars?
She shouldn't be, but she is. She is really serving Jeffrey Epstein's sentence after he committed suicide. There was no one else to prosecute because there was no real information against anybody else. And so they went after her, and they sentenced her to a sentence that would have been appropriate for Epstein, but not at all appropriate for her. And so she's appealing now, and I hope the appeal will be granted. She deserves to be out.
Why is this such a difficult thing to see, this list or not list? Or you're an attorney. I'm pulling out the soundbite because you're an attorney. What do you think of Dershowitz's assessment? Ghislaine Maxwell should be out of prison.
I think when Epstein's lawyer tells you there's no client list and says he wished there had been one because he wanted to separate himself as someone who was falsely accused. And let's be transparent, I love Alan Dershowitz. He is a mentor and a friend. So am I objective on him? No. Have I looked at the proof? Yeah, there's none. There's no way the accusation against him should have ever been levied. But let's put that to the side. He has an interest in seeing people who did bad stuff having the information come out to distinguish from his false accusations. So personally, he's got a good motivation. But as the guy's lawyer, he would have loved for there to been a client list to help Epstein. And so when he tells you there isn't one, I think you should listen. I don't agree with his assessment of Maxwell, but I would defer to it because he is a far superior intellect on these things to me. And I'm not being falsely humble. I have him on as a better mind for a reason. He's a legend, and he deserves that distinction. However, having watched that trial, Eric, Maxwell knew a lot of dirty stuff, and she did a lot of dirty deeds to bring girls that had no business being around Epstein into his atmosphere. And I definitely think they were right to come after her. The nature of the sentence, you can feel any way you want. But again, we're left in the same place. Alan Dershowitz agrees with what I'm saying. If Maxwell had something to offer, she would have offered it by now.
All right. Well, let's move on to something else, Chris. I mean, you and I spent the better part of many decades in the media. Media is evolving. You know, the digital world is becoming more popular, actually overtaking a lot of the cable world's audience. But it's also becoming a little bit different in this. It bifurcated. It was far right, Fox News, Newsmax, others, and there's far left, MSNBC. You could say CNN if you want to or not. All of a sudden, Trump gets in 2.0. He sues Stephanopoulos and ABC. He wins. He sues CBS, wins $16 million plus another $20 million in advertising. They fire Colbert, possibly to get the FCC to approve a Paramount deal with Skydance. The media is evolving. Does Trump claim a victory for what's becoming the new media?
Victory, no. Credit, yes, he was a big boost to digital media. Democratization of media is a good thing, but a mixed blessing. I think ultimately it's a feature of our democracy, and it's a good thing. I think it takes time to shake out. More is not always better. The pod bros, I think, have traded in a lot of things that a legitimate media platform can't. And hot takes get policed. I have a boss. I have multiple bosses. I have lawyers. I have ethical standards. I have people who I have to be accountable to who can call me up and say, hey, on your show, you had Eric Bolling on, and you were a little more than aggressive when you cut him off, and you got to be careful about that. The pod bros don't have that. So there's oh yeah, it's unvarnished, it's authentic. It can also be wildly inaccurate, inappropriate, and counterproductive. Is it a win for Trump? No, not necessarily. And I don't think I would belittle his win by saying he won because of Rogan or the pod bros. It's not true. They were a reflection of why he won. They were not the reason that he won.
He took a victory lap on Truth Social for Stephen Colbert's firing, though. I mean, let's be honest. I think Trump would call that a win on his scoreboard.
That's fine. But Trump calling something a win and me calling a win are two different standards. But
fair enough.
Look, here's my concern. You said he won against ABC. He won against CBS. No, he didn't. He got paid by them because they were afraid of him. And I think it's really poor form. And I think having the FCC come out and approve the Skydance deal for Paramount right after they got rid of Colbert reeks to high heaven, and MAGA would go bat poop crazy if it were a D who are in the situation that the R is in right now in terms of muscling media to get paid out. Can you imagine
Chris,
if
very
Biden
important
had sued
topic
Fox? Can you imagine if Biden had sued Fox and they just gave him
well, I mean,
$16 million?
Newsom is suing Fox. Newsom is suing Fox.
Yeah.
Trump is suing Fox. I mean, it's a new world. There's an important topic that I really want to talk to you about, and I cleared it with you prior because it's important because you're a friend of mine. You're a friend of mine. It's my notes. It's my notes. New York City mayor, your brother. This guy Mamdani. Where in the world? Well, no. I'm saying Mamdani came out of nowhere. A socialist, like a legit, almost communist, coming out of nowhere, takes the Democrat nomination. Where is the Democrat Party, my friend?
I don't know. And this is why let's speak some truth here that people in the audience and other opportunists can twist for advantage. I love my brother. I'm with him 100% all day long, just like you are with your family and most people who care about family. I was in no hurry to have him re-enter politics. I think he's given enough. I think it's too dirty, too manipulated. I did not want him to run as a Democrat because I think that party is going through reaction formation to MAGA and creating their own populist movement, which you're now seeing. You never mix up a movement with the messenger. Message comes first in politics, especially on the Democrat side. President Trump didn't create MAGA. He harnessed what was happening in this country. Same thing on this side. Yeah, Mamdani's a dilettante. Yeah, he comes from rich people. Yeah, he went to good schools. Yeah, he's not a real one as a socialist. Yeah, okay, fine. So what? The movement is still there. And it is as irrationally and outraged as I thought MAGA was. Because it's not that you're wrong to be upset about affordability any more than MAGA was right to be upset about a perceived openness and recklessness about the southern border. It's what are you going to do about it? The remedies are where I think this new populist movement that swallowed the Democratic Party in New York City falls short. Because just the word, let alone the ideas, socialism, you're going to take the means of production. You want to attack white neighborhoods. You want to attack rich people. You think that that's the language of a leader? I think that's crazy. The same way I felt that chasing out all migrants, that seeing everyone who enters illegally when it was basically permitted for so many years under the Democrats are all the same kind of threat is a mistake. And I think the majority agrees with me on both fronts. The majority is disconnected
I'm not sure,
from MAGA.
Chris. I'm not
disconnected
sure.
from whatever
I'm not
Mamdani.
sure. I think you're speaking absolute truth to everything we talk about, with the exception of that last line where you said you think the majority agrees with you not removing all the illegals that are here. I think that is the one thing that is, I believe it's either 55 or 58% of the population, a cross-section of the population, independent, Republican, Democrat, believe that removing all illegals is what they would prefer. And they believe Trump is doing the right thing by that. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that that's where the polling lies in that. Here's the question, though. So you have an admitted socialist that's basically leading the New York City mayoral race. Now, let's game this out a little bit. Andrew Cuomo's in there, and he may be taking the vote away from Eric Adams, who would be the one that would be able to beat Eric Adams at this point. The question is, should your brother step down and let Adams go at it with Mamdani and hope for the sake of the country, certainly the sake of the city at least, we don't have a socialist in charge of the most powerful big city in America?
Well, look, I think, young isn't always bad, but having never run anything, being in your 30s, never even really having had a job, I think is a concern. But Mamdani has a movement behind him. And I think you got to address their grievance, and you've got to convince people who have a right and are right to be pissed off that you can do better for them. And that's the test for all of them, including my brother. I would offer this, okay? Obviously, I'm not objective. I don't cover the race on News Nation for this reason. But as a human being, I'm allowed to have my own opinion, right? I don't think two polling quibbles. One, I don't think you can show me a poll showing me the American majority wants all illegal entrants removed. They want dangerous ones removed. 3 in 4 of us say that, and it's the right position, in my opinion. I think the numbers drop precipitously when you put them all into the same basket. But let's put that to the side. For Andrew, I don't think you can show me a piece of polling, ask your guys to pull it, that Mamdani loses to Adams. I haven't seen it. I think Sliwa has a better chance than Adams of beating Mamdani if Andrew's in the race or not. Conversely, Andrew, I don't know how he wins with Adams in the race. And I don't know why Adams is the one who's given a clear path and not Andrew. Well, Andrew lost in the primary. But he was running against a movement that Adams started with his
it's just this, Chris. It's perceived as it's perceived that Mamdani is the radical, right? And that Eric Adams has become, for whatever reason, has become the moderate. And if Andrew and Adams are going to split the moderate vote, neither one of them can win if all 3 of the folks stay in the race. And that is the perception. That's my perception.
I don't think that's
final thought. I got to let you go. I know, but
I think that's the reality, Eric. I think you got it exactly right. I do not think Adams or Andrew wins if they're both in the race, and I think they're making a path for Mamdani. The question is, which one of them should be more entitled to run the race? And I think that's what the polling is going to have to suss out.
Got it. Chris Cuomo, really good having you on, my friend. And folks, again, we come from opposite ends of the political spectrum, but we met here on Bolling, and always good talking to you, my friend, Chris Cuomo.
I am a huge fan of yours. I don't have a lot of political ideology. I am here to test it. Not a Democrat, never been a Democrat, not a Republican, never been a Republican. My first vote ever, though, was for a Republican. 1988, I voted for President George Bush against Dukakis because I thought Dukakis was a poor man's Cuomo, poor man's Mario Cuomo. And I went to Yale, so I had an affinity to Bush. So that was my first vote. But if your name's Cuomo, I vote for you. Otherwise, I think the parties are the problem. And you are a fair broker. I don't care if we agree or not. You're coming from a good place, and I'm always a call away, and I wish you well.
Wish you well as well, my friend. And next time we'll talk about whether or not Elon Musk is right on bringing a third political party into the American political scene. Chris, good talking to you, my friend.
Take care, handsome.